Have you ever felt like someone you trusted simply erased you from their life, without warning? One moment, you're close. The next, it's like you never existed. That's not coldness. That's Gemini. Most people think Geminis are just talkative, social butterflies. But few understand the deep emotional world hidden behind their words. A world where trust is sacred. And betrayal? It's not just remembered. It's imprinted. Today, I'm going to show you a side of Gemini no one talks about. The side that remembers every word, every lie, every broken promise. The side that plans silently. The side that uses silence as a shield and words as weapons. Why does a Gemini move on so fast? Why can they cut ties like a switch flipped off? And why? After hurting them, you may never get back in? Stay with me. What you'll discover about Gemini's heart and mind might just change how you see loyalty and yourself. Before we dive deep, if you love understanding people through psychology and astrology, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend. Your support helps me bring you more stories that touch both the mind and the soul. Now, let's explore the mysterious, brilliant, and unforgiving world of Gemini. When someone betrays a Gemini, it's not just an event they remember. It's a feeling. A moment frozen in time. A memory that becomes part of who they are. You might think they've moved past it. You might see them laugh, talk, and act as if everything's normal. But deep inside, that moment is still there. Stored like a photograph in their heart. And no matter how much time passes, that betrayal will shape the way they see you. Maybe forever. Imagine this. You lie to a Gemini. Maybe you thought it was harmless. Maybe you thought they'd forget. But the next time they look at you, something's changed. Their smile feels different. Their eyes don't trust in the same way. That's because every broken promise, every dishonest word, leaves a permanent mark. It's not just the mind that remembers. It's their soul. This is why, when you lose the trust of a Gemini, getting it back is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. They might forgive you on the surface. They might let you stay in their life. But the connection? The closeness you once had? It won't be the same. And deep down, you'll feel it too. There's a weight. A wall. A silent distance that words can't explain. What most people don't realize is that Geminis don't just remember events. They remember emotions. How you made them feel in that exact moment when trust was broken. It's not about revenge. It's about protection. Every Gemini carries those emotional archives not to hurt you, but to protect themselves from future pain. Have you ever wondered why a Gemini seems so cautious after being hurt? Why they suddenly become harder to reach? It's because their mind and heart work together. Their memories aren't just recollections. They're lessons. Now think about loyalty. People often say Geminis can't commit, that they're too changeable. But here's the truth. A Gemini's loyalty isn't given easily. When they choose to trust you, it means you've passed through their emotional defenses. You've become someone special. And once that happens, they'll be there for you in ways you can't imagine. Supporting you. Protecting you. Cheering you on. But betray that loyalty, and watch how quickly the walls come up. Betrayal for a Gemini doesn't just break trust. It breaks the image they held of you. And rebuilding that image is almost impossible. You might keep talking to them. You might think everything's fine. But in their heart, they've already started detaching. It's their way of surviving. Their way of healing. You see, emotional distance is a Gemini's silent defense. When they feel hurt, they don't always lash out. They don't always explain. Sometimes, they just step back. Quietly. Coldly. And if you've ever been on the receiving end of that coldness, you know how painful it feels. They won't argue. They won't scream. They'll simply act like you're no longer worth the energy. And that silence? It cuts deeper than words ever could. But here's the thing. This emotional distance isn't about punishing you. It's about protecting themselves. It's a subconscious wall they build to keep the pain from getting worse. Think of it as a frozen lake. Beautiful on the surface. But step on it the wrong way, and you'll find nothing but cold, hard silence beneath. That's why understanding a Gemini's inner world is so important. They may seem open, but inside, they're cautious. Guarded. Every betrayal teaches them a new lesson. Every hurt pushes them further inside their shell. If you've hurt a Gemini, here's the harsh truth. They won't tell you when they stop trusting you. They'll just stop letting you in. You'll notice it in small ways. The conversations get shorter. The laughter less genuine. The warmth starts to fade. And by the time you realize what's happening, it might be too late. But here's where the psychology comes in. Geminis process betrayal as more than just emotional pain. To them, it's a disruption of their reality. A crack in the foundation of how they see the world. People often underestimate how much energy Geminis invest in their relationships. Every friendship, every romance, is carefully analyzed and deeply felt, even if they don't show it. When that foundation breaks, it shakes their core. And so, what do? They retreat. They protect themselves. Their emotions, once open and free, become locked away behind logic and strategy. They stop reacting emotionally and start thinking logically. How to avoid this pain again? How to protect their heart in the future? That's why many people say Geminis are quick to move on after being hurt. It's not that they don't feel. It's that their mind takes control when the heart has been wounded. They can't afford to let emotions rule them after betrayal. So, they let their intellect take over. But inside, they're still hurting. They're still processing. They're just doing it silently. If you're someone who values your relationship with a Gemini, remember this. Honesty matters more than you realize. It's not just about telling the truth. It's about respecting the trust they gave you. Once you break that, words won't fix it. Time won't heal it. Only actions will. And even then, sometimes, that door stays closed. So, what can you do? Start with empathy. If you've hurt a Gemini, don't chase after them with explanations. Give them space. Let them process. Show, through consistent actions, that you understand the gravity of what happened. Most importantly, respect their silence. Sometimes, silence isn't rejection. It's healing. Geminis are not heartless. They're not cold. They're simply protecting what little trust they have left. And if you're lucky, one day, they might let you back in. But don't count on it. Because once a Gemini learns the lesson, they rarely repeat it. Now, let's talk about something most people never notice about Gemini. Their mind. Their thoughts. Their endless inner dialogue. When a Gemini feels betrayed, something switches inside them. Their brain doesn't freeze. It speeds up. It starts asking questions. Not just simple ones like why did this happen, but deeper ones like what did I miss, or how do I make sure this never happens again? And here's where the real shift happens. While most people get stuck in sadness or anger, Gemini moves straight into strategy. Their mind becomes a shield. A defense. You may think they've forgiven you. You may think the silence means they've moved on. But in reality, they're analyzing every detail. Every conversation. Every sign they ignored. Their ruling planet, Mercury, gifts them this fast-moving mind. But when hurt, that gift turns into a weapon. Suddenly, every small clue from the past makes sense. Every inconsistency becomes clear. And they quietly file it all away for the next time. That's why after betrayal, you'll find it almost impossible to deceive a Gemini twice. They've learned. They've adapted. And they've promised themselves, never again. Picture this. A Gemini who once shared everything with you. Every thought. Every dream. Every late-night conversation. Now, they speak less. They share less. And what they do say feels careful. Filtered. That's not because they've stopped caring. It's because they've started protecting. Their mind becomes their armor. And here's where their intelligence truly shines. They don't seek revenge in obvious ways. Instead, they plan. Not out of cruelty, but out of survival. They might wait weeks, months, even years. But when the right moment comes, they'll show you, not through anger, but through precision, that they never forgot. They'll make sure their response is calculated, subtle, powerful. Maybe through a conversation where they say exactly what needs to be said to make you rethink everything. Maybe by exposing the truth without raising their voice. Maybe simply by succeeding without you, leaving you wondering how they moved on while you're still standing in the past. But don't mistake this as a lack of feeling. Their heart is still broken. They've just chosen to let their mind take over. And that, for a Gemini, is the safest way forward. Now, let's explore something people rarely connect to Gemini. Their memory. Not just the memory of facts or events, but emotional memory. The way you looked at them when you lied. The exact words you used when you broke their trust. The tone of your voice. The hesitation in your answer. Every detail is stored. Not because they want to punish you, but because they need those memories to protect themselves next time. Have you ever seen a Gemini bring up something you said years ago? With the same precision as if it happened yesterday? That's not just memory. That's survival. They replay those moments in their mind, analyzing what went wrong. Not because they're trapped in the past, but because they refuse to let the same mistake hurt them twice. In their world, memory is both a gift and a weapon. This is why when you wrong a Gemini, even if they forgive, they won't forget. It's not that they're holding a grudge. It's that they're holding on to the lesson. Every broken promise, every betrayal, becomes a shadow that follows them. Sometimes silent. Sometimes obvious. But always present. And when you least expect it, they'll remember. Maybe during an argument. Maybe in a quiet moment. Maybe when deciding whether to let you back into their life. That memory becomes the reason they hesitate. The reason they protect their heart one more time. But perhaps the most misunderstood side of Gemini is their words. People say Geminis talk too much. That they're always joking. Always telling stories. But few realize the depth of their language. For a Gemini, words are power. Words are healing. Words are protection. When they feel hurt, they won't always cry. They won't always argue. But they will speak. And when they do, you'll feel it. Their words can cut deeper than silence. They know exactly how to phrase their pain. How to point out your betrayal without raising their voice. You might find yourself speechless, unable to defend your actions, as their sentences expose your flaws, your mistakes, your broken promises. And it's not always direct. Sometimes, their words come wrapped in humor, sarcasm, wit, a clever observation that makes others laugh while you feel the sting. That's what makes them so dangerous when hurt. You'll never see the attack coming. Their mastery of communication allows them to control the narrative, to guide the conversation, to make sure their pain is known without ever appearing weak. It's not revenge. It's expression. Their words are the only way they know how to release what's trapped inside. But if you think that's where it ends, think again. Because behind every clever comeback, behind every cutting remark, is a heart that once trusted you. A heart that once believed in your promises. And every sentence they speak after betrayal is their way of saying, "I expected better." That's why, when you hurt a Gemini, your punishment isn't their anger. It's their honesty. Now, think about this. Gemini is ruled by duality. Two sides. Two faces. Light and dark. Joy and sadness. You never know which one you'll meet. But here's the truth most people miss. This duality isn't chaos. It's survival. When betrayed, their calm side protects their emotions. The part of them that once opened up, now stays silent. But the other side, the storm, that's waiting. And when you least expect it, the storm will arrive. One moment, they're smiling. The next, they're distant. One day, they forgive. The next, they disappear. Their duality isn't a game. It's their way of staying safe. Of balancing between who they were and who they need to be to avoid getting hurt again. It's why people call them unpredictable. But the truth? They're not unpredictable. They're protecting themselves. They're reading the situation. Deciding which version of themselves will keep them safest. And once they've decided, you'll know. Maybe you'll see the calm side. The one that forgives but never forgets. Or maybe you'll meet the storm. The part of them that cuts ties without warning. That uses silence as punishment. That disappears without explanation. And once that side appears, it's almost impossible to bring back the light. So, if you value your connection with a Gemini, respect both sides. Understand that their change isn't rejection. It's survival. Because once you awaken the storm, you might never see the calm again. But what comes next will take us even deeper. In the next part of this video, we'll reveal the truths that many people refuse to believe about Gemini. Including the 3 most controversial reasons why once they walk away, they may never come back. There's something powerful about the way a Gemini keeps their silence. Many people think that when they're quiet, they're calm. That when they don't react, they've let go. But that's not true. When a Gemini goes silent after you hurt them, it's not because they've forgotten. It's because they're storing every detail. Not for revenge. Not to punish. But to choose the perfect moment to speak. And when they do, it's never when you expect. A Gemini who feels betrayed often pretends like nothing happened. They'll smile. They'll talk. But inside, they're waiting. Watching. Every word you say after that betrayal gets added to the story they're building inside their mind. And when the moment feels right, they'll tell their version of that story. A version where every emotion, every hurt, every lie, is exposed. Imagine someone keeping your secret for months, maybe years. Then, in the middle of a casual conversation, they say something that shakes you. They let you know, without anger, that they've known all along. That they saw through you. That every time you smiled, they remembered the truth. That's a Gemini. Their silence isn't surrender. It's control. Now, think about their ability to read people. It's not magic. It's not intuition alone. It's observation. A Gemini watches carefully. They notice when your voice changes. When your story doesn't line up. When your eyes avoid theirs at the wrong moment. You might think you're fooling them. But inside their mind, they're already connecting the dots. It's why deceiving a Gemini is almost impossible twice. The first time, maybe. They trust. They believe. But once hurt, their senses sharpen. They begin scanning every word you say. Every action. Every pause. And without telling you, they know when you're lying. Have you ever wondered why a Gemini suddenly pulls away from someone without explanation? It's often because they've already solved the puzzle. They know the truth. But instead of confronting, they protect. They withdraw. They save their energy for people who deserve it. Here's where psychology plays a role. Geminis aren't born suspicious. Life teaches them. Every betrayal strengthens their mind's defenses. They become careful. Not out of coldness, but from fear of being hurt again. And yet, their loyalty is unmatched. People misunderstand this part. They see Geminis as flighty, easily distracted, hard to commit. But if you've ever had a Gemini truly trust you, you'll know the truth. Their loyalty runs deep. Once you've earned their heart, they'll fight for you, defend you, stand beside you even when it's inconvenient. Their loyalty isn't about promises. It's about energy, time, emotional presence. But loyalty has limits. Break that trust, and the loyalty dies. Not slowly. Not after many chances. Often, instantly. A Gemini won't beg you to stay. They won't explain why they're leaving. They'll just go. Because in their mind, if you broke their trust once, you can do it again. And they won't let that happen. Have you ever lost a Gemini without understanding why? That's probably the reason. Somewhere, somehow, you crossed a line. And when you did, they disconnected. Quietly. Completely. What most people don't realize is that Geminis view loyalty as a form of intellectual respect. They need to trust your words, your actions, your patterns. Once those things don't match, they can't respect you. And without respect, they can't stay loyal. Their loyalty is a choice. And once they choose to withdraw it, there's rarely a second chance. Now, when it comes to their mind, Gemini is always 2 steps ahead. Betray them, and they'll use that mind not to attack, but to protect. You might not even realize what's happening. While you're thinking about apologies or excuses, they're planning how to detach. How to move forward without you. How to succeed without letting you close again. And when the time is right, they'll show you. Maybe in public. Maybe in private. But their intelligence will shine. Not in anger. In clarity. They'll expose the truth, or they'll simply remove themselves from your life in a way that leaves no doubt. Their strategy isn't to hurt you. It's to protect their peace. Have you ever watched a Gemini maneuver a difficult situation with such precision that you didn't even realize what was happening until it was over? That's not luck. That's intellect. That's strategy. And once betrayed, they sharpen those skills. Here's something important to understand. A Gemini doesn't seek to win over you. They don't need revenge. What they need is control over their emotions. Their life. Their peace. Once you threaten that, their mind kicks in. And they'll do whatever it takes to restore their balance. Even if it means removing you completely. This is why manipulating a Gemini after betrayal is almost impossible. They've already analyzed you. They've seen your tactics. They know how you play the game. And they're ready. Always ready. Betraying a Gemini means you're not fighting their heart anymore. You're fighting their mind. And that's a battle you won't win. Think about this next time you hurt someone born under this sign. You're not just losing their affection. You're losing access to their thoughts, their plans, their presence. And by the time you realize it, they're already gone. But don't mistake all this strategy as a sign that they don't care. They do. That's why they protect themselves so fiercely. They care too much. And once they realize that their heart led them into pain, their mind takes control. Betrayal for a Gemini isn't a small event. It's a lesson. One that shapes how they love, how they trust, and how they protect their soul. In the next part of this video, we'll explore the most personal and controversial truths about Gemini's way of handling pain. The final 3 reasons why. Once you lose their trust, getting it back might not just be difficult, it might be impossible. What most people misunderstand about a Gemini is how quickly they can cut ties. One day, you're talking every morning, sharing your life, thinking everything's fine. The next day, they're gone. No warning. No explanation. Just silence. And you're left asking yourself, what happened? But here's the truth. Geminis don't make that choice lightly. They don't walk away because they're careless or cruel. They walk away because they've reached a point where keeping you in their life hurts more than losing you. They choose peace over chaos. They choose distance over pain. When a Gemini cuts ties, it's their way of saying, I've given enough. And what you need to understand is that once they make that decision, it's final. There's no negotiation. No discussion. No going back. It might not make sense to you. You might feel shocked, even hurt. But in their mind, it's simple. They see a pattern that they don't want to repeat. And to protect their heart, they leave. Quietly. Completely. If you've ever tried to reach out after a Gemini cuts you off, you know how cold that silence feels. Messages left unread. Calls ignored. Doors that once opened so easily now locked tight. It feels brutal. But for them, it feels necessary. Now, think about this. A Gemini's ability to detach emotionally isn't a weakness. It's a survival skill. When they've been hurt enough, they learn to shut down. To feel nothing. It's not that they've stopped caring. It's that caring became too painful. They create emotional distance like a wall around their heart. You might not see the wall, but you'll feel it. Conversations that once flowed easily now feel forced. Jokes don't land the same. The warmth in their voice disappears. It's like they've become a different person. But here's the thing, that coldness isn't aimed at you as punishment. It's aimed at themselves as protection. It's their way of saying, I won't let you hurt me again. And once they reach that place, breaking through the wall isn't impossible, but it's close. If you've ever watched a Gemini withdraw like this, the hardest part is accepting that there's no clear path back. They won't tell you what to do. They won't explain how to fix it. They've already decided that protecting their heart matters more than repairing the relationship. In their mind, letting go of you is how they hold on to themselves. And maybe you've seen it in their silence. Or in the way they say I'm fine with a tone that feels colder than ice. That's their defense. That's their boundary. Their mind knows what their heart can't say out loud. And their heart? It's tired. But here's what most people never realize. Geminis often use humor to mask their pain. After betrayal, they won't always sit and cry. Instead, they'll joke about what happened. Laugh it off in conversations. Turn their hurt into a clever story that gets people to smile. But inside, they're still bleeding. Their humor is their shield. It allows them to share the story without exposing the wound. Every sarcastic remark, every witty comment, is a way to control the pain. To keep it at a distance. Maybe you've seen this. A Gemini making light of something that clearly hurt them. Telling a funny version of a breakup. Turning betrayal into a lesson wrapped in laughter. It sounds like they're over it. But if you listen closely, the hurt is still there. Just buried beneath the smile. That's why when a Gemini jokes about something serious, don't assume they're healed. Sometimes, the people who laugh the loudest are carrying the heaviest pain. Their humor is both a sword and a shield. It keeps others entertained, but it keeps the real emotions hidden. And when they choose to expose the truth, it's not in anger. It's in moments of vulnerability. Moments when the joke stops. When the smile fades. And for a split second, you see the pain behind their eyes. In that moment, you realize they've been hurting all along. Now, let's talk about something few people dare to admit. A hurt Gemini can be manipulative. Not out of cruelty. Not to control for power. But as a defense mechanism. When they feel cornered, when they've been betrayed, they'll use their mind to control the situation. To protect themselves. It might look like guilt tripping. Or turning the tables in conversations. Or making you question your own actions. But underneath that manipulation is fear. Fear of being hurt again. Fear of losing control. Fear of being vulnerable. Geminis aren't naturally manipulative people. But betrayal changes them. It teaches them that not everyone deserves their honesty. And when they feel unsafe, their mind takes over. If you've ever found yourself confused after an argument with a Gemini, replaying the conversation, wondering if maybe you were wrong, that's not always coincidence. Sometimes, it's their mind protecting their heart. This doesn't make them bad people. It makes them human. But it's also why healing with a Gemini after betrayal is so difficult. You're not just dealing with their heart. You're dealing with their mind. A mind that's constantly analyzing, questioning, strategizing. And unless you rebuild trust slowly, with honesty and consistency, their mind will keep you at a distance. Not because they hate you, but because they're afraid to let you in. The final piece of this puzzle is perhaps the hardest to accept. A Gemini's mind never stops moving. Even when they're smiling. Even when they're silent. Even when they've walked away. The moment you hurt them, their mind starts working. How did this happen? What did they miss? How can they protect themselves next time? Their mind becomes their shield. Their guide. Their protector. And once that process starts, you'll find it almost impossible to stop. If you think you've escaped the consequences of hurting a Gemini, think again. They're still thinking about it. Still analyzing. Still preparing. And when the time comes, they'll decide whether to let you close again, or leave you behind. But what you need to remember is this. Their constant thinking isn't about punishing you. It's about protecting their peace. Their mind has learned that trusting too easily brings pain. So, next time you meet a Gemini who seems distant, who seems cold, who uses humor as a shield, remember this: behind that wall is a heart that once trusted too quickly. And a mind that now protects it. In the next and final part of this video, we'll explore the 3 deepest, most powerful reasons why once a Gemini walks away, it's almost impossible to bring them back. What you're about to hear might just change the way you see them forever. There's one thing about Gemini most people never truly understand. Their sense of justice. You see, for a Gemini, betrayal isn't just a broken promise. It's a violation of something deeper. Something they believed in. Something they invested their energy and emotions into. When you hurt them, it's not just personal. It's wrong. And their mind needs to balance the scales. Justice for a Gemini isn't about revenge. It's about restoring inner peace. Making sure that what happened isn't ignored. That their pain doesn't go unnoticed. Sometimes that means confronting you directly. Sometimes it means letting everyone else see the truth. Sometimes, it simply means walking away. You might think they've let it go. You might believe they've moved on without addressing it. But inside, they haven't. Not until justice, in some form, is served. It could be as small as a conversation where they express their hurt. Or as large as removing you from their life completely. But for them, doing nothing isn't an option. Because leaving the situation unresolved feels like betraying themselves. That's why. When you wrong a Gemini, you should expect clarity. Expect honesty. Expect them to say exactly what you did and how it made them feel. Not to hurt you, but to heal themselves. They don't need to see you suffer. They need to know you understand. And here's where their power lies. A Gemini isn't afraid to speak the truth. Even if it's uncomfortable. Even if it risks losing you completely. For them, silence is far more painful than honesty. So, they'll tell you. Calmly. Clearly. What you did. How it broke them. Why they can't let it pass. And if you really listen, you'll hear not just their anger, but their hurt. Their words aren't an attack. They're an invitation. An invitation for you to understand who they are beneath the surface. But here's the reality. Many people don't listen. They defend themselves. They deny. They deflect. And when that happens, Gemini shuts down. Because speaking their truth is their final effort to heal the connection. If that fails, they won't try again. So, when a Gemini confronts you, listen. It's not weakness. It's courage. Because telling someone how they broke your trust is one of the hardest things you can do. Now, there's something even more difficult to accept. Once a Gemini feels their justice has been served, once they've said what needed to be said, once they've exposed the truth, they move on. Faster than you expect. Faster than you can process. And you'll be left wondering if they ever cared at all. But that's the paradox of Gemini. They care deeply. And that's exactly why they move on so quickly. Because for them, dwelling on the pain doesn't serve them. Holding on to betrayal doesn't heal them. So, after they've processed the hurt, after they've spoken their truth, they let go. Completely. You might still be hurting. You might still be regretting. But they're already focusing on the next chapter of their life. New people. New experiences. New energy. While you're stuck in the past, they're building their future. This isn't because they didn't feel the betrayal. It's because they refuse to let it define them. And this is what makes losing a Gemini so painful. You expect tears. You expect long conversations. You expect closure. Instead, you get silence. You get distance. You get replaced. Because once they've healed, they don't look back. And by the time you realize that, it's too late. So, if you've hurt a Gemini, remember this. They might still smile when they see you. But their heart has already let go. They might still listen to your words. But their mind has already moved forward. And once a Gemini walks away, chasing them will only remind you how far behind you've been left. But now, maybe, you understand why. Their mind protects their heart. Their words protect their peace. Their silence protects their future. And when all of that fails, they protect themselves by walking away. So, what's the lesson in all of this? Not just about Geminis, but about trust. About loyalty. About human connection. Trust, once broken, changes people. Not just Geminis. All of us. But Geminis, with their quick minds and sensitive hearts, show us that moving on isn't always coldness. Sometimes, it's healing. Sometimes, it's survival. And sometimes, letting go is the only way to be free. If you've seen yourself in this story, if you've hurt someone, or if you've been hurt, know that you're not alone. And if you're a Gemini, remember, your ability to protect yourself is not weakness. It's strength. Thank you for staying with me through this journey into the mind and heart of a Gemini. If this video touched you, if you saw yourself or someone you know, please like, share, and subscribe. Maybe share this video with someone who needs to understand you a little better. And if you're curious about other signs, about how psychology and astrology intertwine, there's much more waiting for you in the next videos. This is just the beginning. I'll see you there.